This class is brought to you by the LA Care and Blue Shield Promise Community Resource Centers. The centers are a place to help you be active, healthy, and informed. We hope you enjoy this virtual class.
Hi, I'm Charmaine, and this video production is going to talk about foods to help lower inflammation and stimulate better gut health overall. So I'll be talking about oils and different things that you can do and why it's important to have a good environment in your stomach and how it impacts your brain, as well as all the other things that go along with having a better immune system and how you can boost it through foods. There are some oils that we have that we think that all oils are created equal, but they're not. There's some oils that are good for us, and there's some oils that are bad. I'm first going to talk about the oils that are bad and why. First of all, a lot of times we'll use canola oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, corn oil, margarine, shortening, and palm oil. The palm oil in and of itself, it causes deforestation, but we do have another palm oil, which is a red palm oil that does not do that. But in this case, the reason that these things are bad for you is because they have chemicals in them and they are highly processed. So it's difficult for your brain to understand what it needs to tell your body to do in order for your body to utilize all the things that it needs, because your brain is fat and water. And so you need both fats for your brain and you need waters for your brain as well. But if you don't get the right fats and the right water, then it's going to be a little bit confusing. These particular oils are highly processed at high temperatures and under high pressure. And that's what changes them to be more like a hydrogenated fat. And as we know, we try to stay away from hydrogenated oils and fats because what they do is they clog the arteries and they create high blood pressure. They give us high anxiety, cholesterol. A lot of things go on with your brain and you may not realize, but that's what's happening is your body is not able to process it and your brain doesn't know where to put it. Where should I put this food? Why should I use this? Why should I not have it? Where does it need to go? It's very confusing to the brain, which is confusing to your gut, because there is a connection between your brain and your gut. They communicate with each other. And when the communication is broken and they don't know what to do, that causes a main problem. You will gain weight. You won't be able to sleep. All these things are compounded purely because your body is not able to absorb the nutrients that it needs. These particular oils are also high in omega-3s, not omega-3s, I'm sorry, in omega-6s, and they're lower in the omega-3s. And the omega-3s are the ones that we want to boost the brain power. But because these oils are in so many different products that we may be consuming, we're then consuming way more omega-6s than we really need. And the omega-6s are actually overloading us where we should have more of the omega-3s. And that's where it also has us to have, like I just said, the high blood pressure, but it also causes the clogging of the arteries and water retention. So you have to be careful with these particular ones. And I already said your brain does not recognize it and does not know how to effectively utilize it. It's like, what am I supposed to do with this? I don't know. It's because it's mostly chemicals. It's not food that's absorbed into the cells. It's absorbed into the cells, but the brain doesn't know what to do with it. The stomach doesn't know what to do, and it's altering the stomach flora and the gut. And so that's making it more complicated for your body to know how to utilize it to best nourish the body and the cells. That's very complicated for it. If it's not organic, any of these oils, they generally have hexane in them, which is used to do the processing, which is what's bad. That's another chemical. So your brain, once again, it's not natural for your brain. So your brain doesn't know what to do with it. But if it's organic, that's going to be better because it's not processed with that. So it'll be a little bit better for you if it's not processed where it's with hexane, but it's still, there are better options that we do have that I can make a suggestion for you. And you're going to use these. If you use them, make sure that they are organic and they are expeller pressed. That means it's like you'll see like where they say virgin olive oil. It's the processing that they go through, but it's not at high temperatures. It's just squeezed out. That's the easiest way for me to say. It's where they would squeeze out what's needed instead of doing it at high temperatures with a lot of chemicals. And that's why, so if you're going to do it, try to get it where it's cold pressed or expressed and organic. So if you use those, try to at least do that, because then at least your body doesn't have the extra chemicals that's going to be difficult for it to process in the digestive tract. The good fats, so we do have some fats that we can do that are good, that are feeding the brain properly, and the brain can utilize it, and you won't have the brain fog and things of that nature, and it will have low inflammatory. The other ones increases inflammation, where these that I'm getting ready to tell you about, they will lower inflammation. Okay, and those would be avocado oil, coconut oil, and olive oil. Those are not highly processed because they're just coming from the avocado where it's cold pressed. Olive oil, you'll see where it's extra virgin olive oil, and that's what it means. The processing there is not the same processing that the other oils that they go through. These go through a more pressed, where it's not through the chemical, not through all the high heat and all that type of thing. So these would be better for your body to be able to understand what to do with it. That's the problem. These are also heart healthy. The American Heart Association, the Cancer Society, all the different organizations, they will tell you that these would be better for you to use, and it's better for your brain and your heart. As I said a minute ago, the palm that you can use is the red palm. The red palm is better for you because it's not processed exactly like the other ones, and it's the only good palm oil because it's unrefined, it's organic, it's sustainable. So therefore, this one would be a better palm. And what they mean about sustainable also is that it's not destroying the rainforest, where the other one does destroy the rainforest. That has to do with the ozone layer and all kinds of other things in the ecological system. So if you're going to get a palm oil, you should use the red palm oil because that one is much better. How about sugar? That thing that everybody just loves. But you see, I have a thumbs down for that. The reason I have a thumbs down is because, as we know, sugar is very bad for you, and sugar, which the government has acknowledged, is actually more addictive than cocaine, if you can believe that. And you can see some people just have a hard time kicking sugar, but sugar does a lot of damage, a lot. But if you therefore don't want to have any white refined sugar, it's bad for you. The white sugar that you see, it's bad. Reason is because it causes heart disease, diabetes. It feeds the gut bacteria, the bad gut. It kills off the bad gut because it makes the bad bacteria grow. And then the bad bacteria that grows more prolific in your gut, it then kills off the good bacteria. So now your gut can't communicate with the brain because your gut is like having a second brain in your system. That's why they say we have two brains. You have one up here and you have one in your gut. They communicate with each other. It's almost like a symbiotic relationship. They go back and forth. What happens to your brain tells your gut to do something. What happens in the gut, it tells your brain what to do. So they kind of go back and forth and back and forth. So if you have all this bad bacteria in your stomach, it's actually telling your brain bad things, like eat more sugar, eat more sugar, eat more sugar, eat more sugar. Then what happens? Your diabetes goes up, you gain weight, all those kind of things. So it just creates this cycle for you. That's a bad cycle that you don't want to be in. Some of the sweeteners that you may want to consider would be something like a monk sweetener. You can do that where it's a 1-to-1 and it does not raise the glycemic index. It says it right on the package. It says 0. It's good for diabetics because of that reason. And so that's one that you can use. It does taste pretty good. And like it says over here, like I have on my paper here, it's a 1-to-1 substitution. So it's very good for you. You can use a pure stevia. And when I say pure stevia, I mean that means that's one that does not have any additional flavoring to it, nothing. It's just a pure stevia. You can use that one. Coconut sugar is also low on the glycemic index. That's another one you can use. So here's 3 options that you have for sugar if you're a diabetic. And you can try them out and see which one might be better. You can ask your doctor which one would be better for you. Again, if you're diabetic, you still don't want to use too many of these. And even if you're not diabetic, you don't want to do too many of these because it still is a type of sweetener that's now going to feed some type of bacteria in your stomach. So you don't want it overboard because it may add too much of the bad bacteria if you eat too much of it. So you still want to minimize that, but it's better for you than the white refined sugar. Chocolate, if you're going to eat chocolate, try to get chocolate with the least amount of sugar in it. And that would be the cacao, starting at about 85% because that's a small percentage of sugar. And then you can build your way up. The more you do not eat sugar, the more you will be able to eat the chocolate that does not have a lot of sugar in it. And it will actually taste sweet to you. It won't taste bitter, but it will taste sweet. But you have to eventually build your palate up to that. And once your system gets used to not having a lot of sugar, then you can do that. The ones that are toxic to your system are things like NutraSweet or Splenda, and the reason is because of the way it's processed. And another name for these two would be something like aspartame and sucralose. And that means they're just chemicals, basically. That's the bottom line. They're just basically chemicals. And again, like I said earlier, your body has a difficult time processing chemicals. It can process food, it can process water, it can process meats, vegetables, and all that. But when you have all these chemicals that are added, that's what changes your gut flora. And by changing your gut flora, it makes it more difficult for your brain to tell the rest of your body what it needs to do. That also increases inflammation. Gut flora, it's all about the gut. It's all about what's in the gut, which is your other brain. That brain is telling your body what it needs to do. So you have to realize that's what's going on here. Gut health and your immune system have a symbiotic relationship and they work together. So it's your brain, your gut, and your immune system. It all works together. So if you have a bad gut flora, that's going to impact your immunity. So you want to make sure, in order for you to stay healthy, boost your immune system, you stay away from as much of the bad sugars and the bad oils that you can. That poses a problem for your overall immunity, your system, your brain, everything, gaining weight, getting sick, all of that is combined. 80% of the cells that make up your immune system are in your gut. Can you believe that? 80%. Let me say that again. 80% of the cells that make up your immune system are actually in your gut. So do you see why that's so important to have a good gut flora? The reason you need that good gut flora is for your immune system. You want to keep your immune system as healthy as possible because keeping that healthy keeps your immune system up. You've got to boost that immune system and keep it up there. You don't want it to lag. You don't want to do something that's destroying it. Remember, you have control over your immune system. You have control over what you put in your mouth. You have control over those things. So understand, you have control over your immune. Okay, eat smart. Let's look at that. You want to stay away from man-made oils. That's the first oils we talked about. But you can do the other oils that are just cold pressed. Your body's brain cannot recognize the bad homemade, man-made oils. Not homemade, but man-made oils. So you want to make sure that you get the ones that are cold pressed. Why? Because the bad ones mess up your gut bacteria. Remember that. Your gut bacteria is what? Your immune system. That's where your immune system is. It's in the gut, okay? And if you have bad oils, bad bacteria in your gut, that's causing inflammation. And inflammation means you have something wrong in your system. Your system is out of whack. It's like going, what should I do? What should I do? So you want to make sure you've got the good oils, right? The better sugar if you're going to have sugar, the better chocolate if you're going to eat chocolate, and you're going to make sure you have a better gut flora because that is your immune system. Your immune system is your. You don't want to eat too much of this. Why? Because these are simple carbs. Simple carbs spike your sugar, just like sugar. It's a simple carb. It's going to make it rise. You don't want to have it rise. Remember the gut flora, sugar? So when you eat a lot of this is kind of the same thing as eating sugar because it's a simple carb. What does that do? It causes inflammation. And how about this? What makes it even worse is you take a simple carb and you're combining it with fats and sugars. So you have a simple carb, which is kind of like a sugar, combined with a sugar, and then combined with a fat, but a bad fat. So you see how you're messing up your stomach? And by doing that, you're messing up your immune system. And by messing up your immune system, you're boosting the inflammation in your system. And then you wonder, why do I have inflammation? I'm sure some of you probably have eaten some sugar or eaten something, and then after you've eaten it, you go, oh, I've got, my wrist is hurting. Oh, my ankle, my head is hurting. I have a headache. I don't know what's giving me a headache. Remember, your brain, gut, headache, the head, remember, your stomach, your gut, not your stomach, but your gut is actually talking to your head, and your gut is confused and it's telling it, your head, I don't know what's going on. I can't do this. I don't understand. So now it's giving it a headache because your head is trying to figure everything out and it's just going bonkers. And it's like, I don't get this. I don't understand. I don't understand what you're trying to tell me. And then it's getting a headache. Have you ever heard somebody talking to you and they just keep talking? And then after a while you get a headache? Have you ever had that happen? Well, that's what you're doing to your head. You're doing that to your head by feeding your gut the wrong thing. It's trying to communicate, and then your head is going, it's too much. I don't understand. I don't get it. Stop it. Stop it. So that's what's happening there. You're confusing it. Okay. The other thing that confuses it is enriched, unbleached flour. So if it says enriched, unbleached, that's the same thing as saying a simple carb, and that's going to spike. And what do you do to flour? Let me see. I add to that flour, which is a simple carb, I add oil, right? And then I add sugar. Didn't we just say what that does? You add oil, sugar, and that's a simple carb. So now what you're doing is you're causing a problem. You're causing a problem for your gut. Your gut is trying to talk to the brain, and the brain doesn't know what it's saying because it's all confused. It's going like this. You've got to reduce that. By reducing all of these things, then what you do is you reduce the inflammation. Remember, gut flora helps to reduce inflammation. You see, reduce the inflammation because those things, it's going to spike it. It's going to make it go up. You want to keep it as low as possible. Okay, gut health. What about gluten? Where do we find gluten? Let me think. Do we find gluten in flour? Yes, we do. Okay, and gluten is kind of like sticky. It kind of sticks to the fibers. You may have these little like villia. It's like these little things that's like this. And what happens is the gluten is not supposed to go through, but it does. That's a whole nother story. But in any case, it increases inflammation. So it's not that you have to be gluten intolerant. It's not that you have to have a gluten sensitivity, but in everybody, usually most people, just about everybody, what it does is it increases inflammation. Gluten in itself, that's what it does. It's already been proven that that's what it does. That's why you see so many people saying, I'm getting off gluten. It's not that they have a gluten intolerance. It's not that they have a gluten sensitivity, but they may feel like, oh, I'm getting bloated or any of these things that are going on. I don't feel good after I eat it. They can eat it, but they just don't feel good. You may get lethargic. You feel tired because remember, what is that doing? Inflammation, even if not gluten intolerant, I should say, you now are going to feel something from it. Sometimes you may feel it and sometimes you may not, but it's still creating havoc on your system. Remember, what are we talking about? What part of the system? We're talking about the gut. It's still having a major impact on your gut. That's where it's doing. And so that's why it would be better for you if you can minimize it. If you can minimize it, it's going to be better for you to go gluten-free and try to look at, if you find a bread, that has all the other things that's in it, like all the seeds and the nuts and the grains and everything. You want it to have a whole grain, the whole grains, not so much the gluten flour. It'll say gluten free. You can read the package. And then you also want to check for the sugar, and you want to check for the type of oil. So you want to check those three things. You want to make sure it doesn't have the gluten. You want to make sure that it's one of the healthier oils. And usually a lot of them now, what they're using is they're using the olive oil. So many of them now, they're using an olive oil rather than the sunflower, safflower, and any of those. And that's because they're overly used. Remember, they're highly processed. The bad oils are highly processed, and they're overused. The reason they're overused is because they're way cheaper. And because they're so cheap, they're just putting it in there. So it's not so much that they're concerned about your health, they're concerned about making more money. And the money that they're making is making you sick. And that's not to say that it's totally bad, because if you're going to eat it, what did I say? Try to get it where it's cold pressed and it's organic. It is going to be a cheaper product. It's not going to be as expensive. It's not going to be as expensive if you do the avocado oil or some of the other oils that I just said that were better, but you can still get it where it's a healthier option. You have it where the ones that are not organic and not cold pressed are going to be the worst because of how they are processed, and they're highly processed. And that's what you want to stay away from. You want your things not to be as highly processed. Okay, and I want to thank you for watching, and thank you so much for joining me. We look forward to seeing you virtually again next week and at one of our resource centers as soon as we can. Until then, stay active, healthy, and informed. And I'd like for you to comment below, like, share, and again, comment if you have any questions you would like for me to expand on any of this or something else that I talked about, anything. But if you have a question for me, please put the question down there. I will try to answer the question. If I can't, I will then get a colleague who can answer your question. But I'd like for you to like it, share it, and by all means, I'm glad that you were able to watch this. I truly appreciate it. I do have a disclaimer, and I have an important message, and that is all information, content, and material of this video is for informational purposes only and are not intended to serve as a substitute for the consultation, diagnosis, and/or medical treatment of a qualified physician or healthcare provider. So you're going to check with them if you have any type of health problem. Okay, that's what I want you to do, because I don't know who you are. I'm giving you general information, and information can change at any time. The information contained on this video is compiled from a variety of sources and is not considered complete. Information is subject to change without notice, and we all know that. We all know that information changes every single day. So what I'm giving you today is what I know of today, based on all the evidence and all of the studies that have been out there that have been given to me. If you have a medical emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. And again, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again next week and at one of our resource centers as soon as we can. Until then, stay active, healthy, and informed.